you guys. Beautiful night tonight, not too hot. Actually, the temperature dropped like 30 degrees. It's actually crazy. So, a friend of mine yesterday told me that, he said, Tzvi, this entire time that you were talking about New York, on the decline, not being the same New York. He's like, you predicted it, Tzvi, Maybe my friend even went so far as to say that it's time to go to Israel. I was shocked to hear that from him, He's not big on going to Israel. He's not big on this whole idea. He has not been big on it, but I told him, listen, there was nothing to predict, and I said, because my friend, he grew up. He grew up in New York, but he didn't grow up the way I grew up. Meaning, I grew up secular in the secular world, traditional. So, I grew up going to clubs. I was part of the New York City underground club scene, underground music, house music, what they call. This is before everything became mainstream, before the whole quote-unquote EDM thing, I was a DJ, with vinyl records and turntables and all the rest of it. And, when Manhattan had a scene, places like Twilo, places like, I'm just, naming some names here, or dropping some names. Twilo, Sound Factory, Tunnel, Limelight, later on Cielo, Vinyl, Filter 14. I was part of that whole scene, And so, when you witness a city, devolve, degress, or regress, It didn't progress, it regressed. You have a frame of reference, right? And so there's no predicting to do. There's no prediction to be, to make. It's just an analysis based on what you know, based on what you've seen, but based on the frame of reference that you have, based on the vibes you were able to feel in the city at different times, at different periods of time. So one second, there's just like weird people driving around this neighborhood. The vibes you're able to feel at different periods of time. And you feel energy just basically going down and down and down and down and down. Where you once felt, excitement and ruach, what we call spirit, good vibes, very good music, like amazing music, amazing energy in a room, and then you just start feeling like darkness and just I don't know how to put it in words, an energy of like flat. It's like a flat energy, fabricated, commercialized. Everything became gentrified, right, folks? I mean, again, there's nothing to predict. Now you could say, Tzvi, well, what about when New York, New York in the 60s, 70s, and 80s was about to collapse due to the same policies that, people like Mamdani wants to install. Well, here's the thing, guys. At that time, if a person wanted to, buy an apartment or rent an apartment, let's say a young person who was like a quote-unquote starving artist, struggling artist, they could do it because it was affordable, right? What detracted most people from living in New York at that time, yeah, it was the crime, but what wasn't it? It definitely was not high rents. So now we have a situation, guys, where we have high rent and high crime. Why do we have high rent? Because, well, the city's been built up with all kinds of gentrification and all kinds of, like very sterile, quote-unquote luxury real estate. But now half of it is empty, folks, because of all these policies, right? All these socialistic policies like rent control and all this kind of stuff. Landlords don't want to rent to people, and also the laws where people could just squat. You don't have to pay. If you don't want to pay rent, you could just literally squat in an apartment and nobody could, anti-eviction laws, right? So nobody wants to rent out to a person, let's say, who they know, is going to squat. Can be a squatter. So guys, basically, the nightlife, at least in Manhattan, has moved over to places like Brooklyn, gentrified. And the people who live in Brooklyn are the same people who vote for. It's the same alphabet people who would vote for a person who would throw them off rooftops, right? So that's basically New York, folks. Full of non-New Yorkers, non-native New Yorkers. Gentrified. It's not ethnic in what I call the right way. New York, listen, New York used to be full of immigrants, but it's immigrants who come to be a fabric of this country, right? If you guys ever seen the movie Do the Right Thing, there's a part where we talk about, everybody calls each other by these epithets, you this, you Korean, whatever, you whatever, Watch the movie. But everybody there, my friends, was proud to be an American. The people who are coming in the last few years are not, they're not going to assimilate, right? And then the people coming to New York who are, largely white kids escaping their Christian parents. And again, I spend time around these kids in the New York club scene. I call them off the dare Christians. And those are the people who move to New York. And these are the people who vote for Mamdani. So my friends, this is nothing more than a case of just something that's been coming to a head in an already devolving and regressing city that has become, if it wasn't already, a glorified concentration camp. Like there's so much Jewish life still in New York and this and that. Listen, my friends, there is, because there's been an infrastructure in New York for a very long time, which cannot be dismantled so quickly, right? Or can it? Guys, back in the day, when Dinkins was mayor in the late 80s, early 90s, he didn't do this actively, but people who didn't like Jews so much took liberties in harming us physically. And when that happened, Dinkins did not he did not do anything about it initially. And it actually took a meeting. It took for him to have a meeting with the Lubavitcher Rebbe, of blessed memory, and for the Rebbe to basically tell him, listen, he didn't order him. The Rebbe just said, listen, we have to have unity in this city, and the city is going to crumble if we don't have unity between the communities. Dinkins understood what the Rebbe was saying, aka get your people under control, because we had, unfortunately, young black men murdering Lubavitcher guys on the street, Jewish guys. I believe his name was Yankel Rosenbaum. He was murdered. Correct me if I'm getting the name wrong, guys. There was a couple of other attacks, and this was all because there was this whole, of course, overreaction, because there was a convoy. It's a whole story. Mikitzer, the Rebbe's convoy of cars, one of the cars ran into a young Haitian boy, and next thing you know, there was riots, and of course, spurned on by Al Not So Sharpton, the enemy of humanity, one of the enemies of humanity, and of the Jews. And so we had riots, right? And the Rebbe said, listen, he told his Hasidim, Chabadniks, listen, we're not going anywhere. We're staying here in Crown Heights. But at that time, New York had a very strong, New York didn't have an Islamist mayor. It had a mayor that needed some talking to, to get things under control. And then after him, finally we got Giuliani, who just basically, who was a district attorney. He wasn't only he was a U.S. attorney and a prosecutor who fought the mob, right? So he was basically able to get crime under control. So it's funny, people this is also ironically started by Giuliani in the heyday of New York. He got all the crime under control, which eventually led to Bloomberg, which eventually allowed for real estate developers to develop or to gentrify places like Williamsburg, Dumbo, basically all of North Brooklyn, where hipsters would dare not go in the 80s and the 70s, especially people from outside New York. All of a sudden you have people moving in to New York, taking advantage of the safety that they deride so much. What is it? Mamdani made a speech. Oh, you can't label stealing this and stealing that as violent crime. You can't label burglary as violent crime. I mean, folks, this is straight out of Sodom, right? So again, now we have a situation where we're in a Gotham state, meaning we're in a Gotham scenario. Gentrified city, due to years of, before COVID, years of basically relatively low crime. Only people who could afford certain rents could live in New York. But then you have like rent stabilization. So then the rent, and then supply goes down, the rent goes, rents skyrocket through the roof. So you have trust fund people who are living in New York. People who are not part of the fabric of New York, basically turning New York into this sterile, white, commercialized place. And here we are, guys. So again, back to my friend's assertion that I made a prediction. I didn't make any prediction. I just, I'm one of these people, I feel the energy of wherever I am. And if you can feel incremental energy, an energy decline, or an energy depletion, or an energy, how should I put this? Decline. A yerida. Yerida means to go down, Yeridat Dorot, decline of the generations. That's what we say in Torah. So if you feel energy declining anywhere you go, whether it's like music or, whatever, the music scene, the social scene, everything's just, the values are getting destroyed. Everything is woke, supposedly, allegedly. It's not the same city anymore. Even if you have a diverse place, it has to be diversity of opinions. You can't just have a place where if you share a particular opinion, if you express a particular opinion, you're, cast off as some kind of pariah, troglodyte, whatever you call it. That's also something that was not a thing back then. You could have differences of opinion. Everybody accepted each other. Today it's like you're the enemy. My friends, the person who just won Democratic nomination, let's just assume for a second that he is a legitimate candidate, meaning he's legitimately there to be the mayor of New York. He believes in what he actually believes in the nonsense that he's saying, right? The nonsense that he's spewing. What I just laid out for you in the last 15 minutes is basically how we got here. It's essentially how we got here, my friends. Now New York has to make a choice. Is it gonna, go back to actual New York values, which is actually legal, patriotic immigrants who came to this country, like my parents, legally, went through the process, were happy and proud to be here, did not burn any flags, did not scream, against America, became the fabric of the country, became part of the fabric of the city, gave the city flavor, but in a positive way, its own flavor, or is it going to continue down the path of just cannibalizing itself, where, people who are not necessarily, who came to the city to turn it sterile, right? And turn it into basically Sodom, who actually are voting for a person whose religion says that he should throw them off rooftops, right? We're not in New York. And are we going to continue going down this path where, normal people are not going to want to participate in the city? They're not going to want to go anywhere near, anything in the city. And also, guys, most importantly, are Jews going to be safe? I venture to say not. They are not, And if I was, any kind of pulpit rabbi, which I'm not, and I don't seek to be, but if I was in their position, I would stand up and I would say, listen, guys, I'm just letting you know right now, I know we've been in the city for a very long time. I know we, by us, I mean the Jewish people. I know that, this shul has been open for a long time. I know I'm very grateful for all of you guys who are part of this community, who are part of the shul. Everybody's awesome, But I just want to tell you guys that I have a feeling that in like 6 months or a year, barring the reformation reconstitution of something like the JDL, I don't think Jews are going to be safe here. So I don't know what I'm going to do. You know, this is something I would say if I was a rabbi in any one of these shuls in Manhattan and Brooklyn. Because folks, you know, it's one thing if you're a rabbi and you have, let's say, enough money in the coffers to pay for round-the-clock security for your shul. Or, you know, like yesterday I went to a shul, I'm not going to say where. You have to ring it's a well-to-do shul, let's say. You have to ring the doorbell. And, you know, somebody buzzes you in. And then at the front there's a security guard. Is that security guard going to deter anybody? I don't know. But point is that has to be paid for. Not every shul can pay for that. Right? I went to another shul last night after the first one where anybody could just walk in, God forbid. Anybody could just walk in. It's a sitting duck situation, my friends. So, any rabbi who's been in New York for more than, let's say, 10 or 20 years has felt that. If he has the pulse, eyes and ears open, and he's on the pulse of things. And so, I don't know. Without scaring his congregants, he should be able to get up there and say, listen, again, guys, you know, I just want to let you know that, you know, things are winding down here. You know, in New York, if not in America altogether. That's what I would say. And I know that rabbis are afraid to be controversial. They're afraid to be, you know, afraid to ruffle feathers. They have their donors. They have their congregants. They have all this stuff. They have people who talk, you know, like the Jewish world talks, you know, like, oh, did you hear what Rabbi so-and-so said? The other, you know, Shabbos, he got up there and he said this and that, and, you know, I'm really surprised, and I didn't see this coming. Oh, what's going to be with the shul? Oh, no more this, no more that. It's like an institution. Folks, like, you know, rabbis are not so quick to jump at that. Because they know the ramifications. They're all thinking the same thing, but they're not going to open their mouth so quickly. So, but my friends, that's what I would say, you know? Because at the end of the day, we don't want to be in a situation where we're just like packing our bags at 3 a.m. because the Cossacks are coming. You know, every rabbi with her salt knows Jewish history. He knows it. Some are actual historians, some just know Jewish history, some just have family history where family members went through this kind of things. It doesn't matter if it's in Europe or, you know, the Arab world. It doesn't matter. These are things that are, yes, you can call them generational traumas, you can call them things that are passed, that are, you know, engraved in what's called spiritual memory, however you call it, but it's there. So it's something Hashem implanted in us for a reason. But my friends, I mean, I'm, again, back to what I told my friend, it doesn't take a Navi, doesn't take a prophet, doesn't take a genius. Just, you know, listen, guys, I lived in Brooklyn for the first 5 years after coming to America, and then with my parents, I lived in Jersey, but I spent a lot of time in Brooklyn and Manhattan, even after moving to Jersey. I consider myself a New Yorker, you know. I'm part of the New York metro area, you know. What is it called? And I've seen the progression from this to that, and trust me when I tell you, again, I am measuring everything according to music, music, the music scene, the nightlife scene. Again, for those who know, we know. For those who are kids, not kids, or who were teenagers in the 90s, in the mid 90s, even early 2000s, who were in the scene and who saw what happened, and who understand why it happened. We are not surprised that we have landed here today. And listen, guys, we'll see what happens, but I'll tell you this, as Don Rickles would say. Hashem is guiding everything. Whether you're seeing the writing on the wall in New York and you're like, oh, I'm going to go to Miami, or you already, you're pass and go and you're collecting 200 shekels and you're going directly to Eretz Israel. Either way, guys, Hashem is running the show here. And whether this guy is a person who actually wants to run a city, or whether he's actually maybe somebody who was sent as an operative by those who I'm not going to name. Either way, guys, Hashem is running this production, as he always is, as we can see. So I'm not going to mention that this guy's a 12 Shiite Muslim who's part of the same sect as the Ayatollahs who we just bombed, right? Whose regime we just bombed. So it may be, guys, that I'm going to leave you with this idea that Iran saw it coming, and so they're like, okay, you're going to do this to us? We're going to send a guy to your greatest city in the world. The one that Trump, your president, our enemy, helped to build. That's his city. We're going to start with his city. His greatest city in the world. And we're going to send this little twerpy, kid, Marxist, trained actor to do it. And, rest assured there's going to be enough people voting for him. Enough Columbia grads and enough NYU grads and Yale grads and New School and some other places. Harvard, Barnard. It's enough of those to go around, folks. Iran knows it. Obama knows it for sure. He was there. Qatar knows it. China knows it. Yeah, my friends. This was way deeper than just wanting to be the mayor of New York. Yeah. Alright, guys. So, I'm not a Navi. I'm just somebody who's had the privilege and advantage of living through a particular time in a particular place, and just having his eyes and ears open. That's it. That's all I am. Alright, guys. Rosh Chodesh, Chodesh Tov, second day of Rosh Chodesh, and talk to you in a bit.